So for this presentation, we talk about what it implies to build an application with the Wakanda platform, from the design part to the deployment. So for myself, for those who don't know me, so I'm the representative of 4D at the W3C, and I am a community manager on Wakanda. And I am mostly a JS expert and involved in NoSQL and REST. And yes, that's it. With the architecture of the Wakanda platform. See, usually our projects start, compare model approach and mock-up approaches, the test-driven development, teamwork, all the stuff, debugging and deployment. So let's start, Wakanda. First, it's an open source platform, cross-platform, and this means the studio runs on Mac OS and Windows, and the server on Mac OS, Windows, and Linux. So you can deploy on quite any platform. And it's for model-driven web-based applications. So that's why the model-driven approach is very important for us. And we talk about web-based applications compared to websites. The goal of this tool, or this platform, is really to provide applications. So it's a quite young project, but we already have a nice community and organize some conferences, like the JS Everywhere conference and some Wakanda events. Oops. Yeah. So Wakanda, in the platform, you will have the server, the application framework for Ajax. That editor, code editor, GUI designer, all the required to build the applications. And you have JavaScript quite everywhere. In the studio, the model editor, the debugger, all the stuff are interfaces written in pure JS HTML. So the developers from our team develop them first from a browser and then integrate it in a desktop studio, giving them access to file system and so on. So we made a quick demo at one of the conferences where we made them run in a web studio, a web IDE, but it's not yet available. It was just proof of concept to show most of the parts were ready for that. So you can expect that in some time. So Wakanda DB is really the core of Wakanda. It's Wakanda. It's a NoSQL object database. It's not NoSQL in regards of big data, scalability, and so on. It's more about having consistency between the data and also building really model-driven applications. So really, the model of your database is the model of your application. It's the same thing. It can be a bit disturbing when you're not used about that, but it's very engaging. So what does that mean? It means that you have a REST API, like for CouchDB or MongoDB or other ones. You can use from Java or from a client-side JavaScript framework, or also from native applications. And for the tools, of course, it's just XML file, JSON file, JavaScript file, so you can use any tools you want. At some point, there was a kind of restriction because for debugging, we were using the Wakanda debugger, but the debugger protocol we integrated was standard ones, like the Firebug Crossfire protocol, and the WebKit one. So we'll talk about debugging later. So yes, standard-based. When we integrated JavaScript on the server, the goal was really to have the same language everywhere, but not only the core JavaScript. Also, when you manipulate sessions, when you manipulate files and so on, if there is a standard API, we wanted to use it. This way, if you build some libraries you can use on the server, potentially, if you're offline in a browser, you could use the same one. So when few years ago, there was a group called CommonJS who started to try to build some standard for the server-side JavaScript. It's not that much active right now, so I try a different approach with the WCC right now. But still, they designed some very important standards, like the module one, which is integrated into Node.js, but which is also supported, for example, in Adobe Photoshop. You can do some JavaScript scripts, but it supports also, you have an extension to support modules with require. There is a lot of implementation supporting modules. So packages, unit test, and of course console. I think most people know about the console API from Firebug, which is now implemented in most debuggers. And yes, we support still some Node.js APIs. They are not standard APIs, but still when there is not an official standard API, it's a good compromise because there is a lot of existing Node.js modules out there. So it's interesting to be able to use them from the platform. The engine we chose was JavaScript Core from WebKit. There is good reason for that. It was the only one which was either open source, multi-threaded, thread-safe, preemptive, and all that stuff, 64 bits. And those were really requirements for a database engine, which want to take the full power of multi-core servers with the full memory of such servers. So it's still a very fast one with 2 just-in-time compilers and strict mode for sensitive application is very important. So we looked at all the JavaScript engines, even at Tamarin, which was an engine for ActionScript. But when we chose this one, we finally saw that it was a good choice. And right now, even when we look for example, V8 or the ones, they still today don't fit for what we want. We did a clean way. We have a layer, an interface layer with a JavaScript engine. So if at some point another engine becomes more adapted, we could change it. But yeah, I really like this one. So the goal, yes, was to be interoperable with any other platform, any other tools, because all of them are different advantages. So even if Node.js, for example, is another server-side JavaScript platform, it's not a database. So it's very interesting to use Wakanda with, as a database for Node.js. Yeah, there is many examples. Let's start for a project. So, yeah. So how does a project start? Most of the time, you have someone coming and say, okay, I have some requirements, I need that. So it's a good approach. Most of the time, you have use cases. Yes, nice. But sometimes it's different. It's, oh, I had a dream. And the people come with a very innovative idea. So we start from scratch, and we try to do something very nice. But it's not already, sometimes it's based on use cases, but people don't even know that you have these use cases, so it's harder to do. And another way is not, probably not the best one, but still it exists. It's first usage of an innovative technology. Oh, you have seen this new technology. Oh, it's awesome, I have to do that with that. What's your Google Glass you have here? Okay, so we see new things every time and say, oh, I want to be the first one doing another something with that. Yes, it's even harder because you even not yet the innovative idea yourself, so, but you will try. Okay, so when we start to do this project, we will have different approaches also. And who knows that? Please. Okay, there's a big problem. When we talk about requirements, which is a very good situation, okay, you will express your requirements and everybody in the team will understand it potentially differently. So it's very hard when you have so much technology involved in a project to make it fit as you want, as at least the product owner wanted. So let's say with the Wakanda platform, we tried at least to make it a little better. We cannot have a perfect situation for that, but at least we can have something which will help. So let's come back to the first steps of the project. So I have an innovative idea. I'm not a programmer and so on. I will do just draw something. So yeah, mockup is a very fast representation of a vision, yeah, as you see. And yeah, anyone could do some mockup. It's easy. Ah, I see it like that. And okay, nice. It's very human friendly. So it's good to be able to offer this option, even if we know it won't be the really root of the application, because you need something stronger. But still, you have the vision. You need it to have it somewhere. Okay. So another interesting thing with that, let's say I want to do a startup. I will go to, I have to show something to a business angel and so on. If I show something too much complicated with a model, something like UML, or I'm not sure he will understand really. So I have to show it something concrete. And if it can run with some buttons and so on, it's even better. So with Wakanda, with a GUI designer, you can very easily drag and drop some widgets and say, okay, the source is this name, and have it bind it without doing any programmation. So it's nice for people like that. But as we said, at the end, you want a strong application. So let's come back to model-driven. Those guys, you will have to talk with, well, database designers maybe, or people involved in the model-driven development, or at least people involved in object programming, you know. So the fact is to say, okay, here's the feature I need, how should it work, what kind of execution I should do, and so on. So you don't want to think about the graphic user interface, because it could be very different if you use this application in the end from the desktop, from an iOS phone, or from Android with very different ergonomics. So let's put that after. It's good, you have some mock-up, at least for desktop or maybe on mobile, but it's not the core. Okay, you have some money, it's perfect, we can start working. So yeah, this is really the core of Wakanda DB. Instead of doing something too technical about how to store data, like on SQL you see the constraint for storing and so on. The engine of Wakanda DB make its best to do the best storage options with indexes and so on. So the fact is that the schema of your database is the model of your application. And this way, which is very important, you will be sure that the business rule will be applied everywhere and consistently. So when you will work on client side, the model you will use will be a proxy of the model which has been defined on the server. So it's a consistent model. And something's nice, we talked about communication and interpretations of the requirements. Yeah, the client-side developers use the same language than the server-side one, and even the one who defines the model, they define a JavaScript model. So we're all talking about the same objects. There will be still some little differences, like using it asynchronously or synchronously, because on the server you can do it synchronously. But even on it's not yet implemented as is for the moment, but for design RPC you can, from the browser, if you create some dedicated workers, you can use them to have some code running synchronously without blocking the UI, which is an interesting option, because when you do your steps in the debugger, you really see the way it is running. So it's interesting. Okay, we need to start some development, and we know that a good thing is to do test-driven development. If you don't want, okay, don't do it, but please, try. So something important to have a stable platform is try to do the test from the beginning. So in Wakanda, you have a test service you can activate, and you can provide some tests for the server-side JavaScript or the client-side JavaScript. It's using YUI tests, which is interesting because it handles most of the requirements for JavaScript coding, even dynamically creating some DOM events and so on. So you have it available. It's, I don't like this URL, but at least it points you to the documentation. And you have also another option, which is a CommonJS unit test. So here it's really the CommonJS approach. It's using the 1.0 version of the unit test, which is what was validated, but which is only synchronous. So it's good for scripts running synchronously on the server. But even on the server, we can launch some shared worker and run some asynchronous code, so it doesn't cover all the requirements. So I like this module, but you cannot use it for anything. There is a 1.1 version of unit testing for CommonJS using providing asynchronous methods. So we may implement it to have it available too. And of course, you have other very interesting testing tools like Jasmine or the ones. You can still use them, of course. And something we didn't yet implemented in the studio, but we could quite easily, it's an extension. I went very quickly over the studio, but there is an extension platform. It's just HTML5, JavaScript files, and you can create your own extension, and for example, some JavaScript test runners quite easily. So, okay, we have money, so we can have several people working on the project. Nice. Sometimes we are alone, but okay, having a source control will still help. And maybe if I make my project open source, I will have some contributions. So yes, when we had this problem with people talking SQL, people talking PHP or JavaScript, it was not that easy to have the things done right. But okay, now we will all write JavaScript everywhere, and we will have different things to make it clean. So the most important thing is the modules. We talked about modules many times, and I will continue. Yeah, when you define the model in the first versions of Wakanda, it was a plain XML file generated by the model editor. So now it can be in JSON, or you can write it as a JavaScript script. And what's interesting is that you can split it very easily this way in many JavaScript scripts using either include or require. So I prefer require, but some people in the team prefer include. Okay, require is a good thing because it's the way you will really make modules, sandbox modules. So it's very, I think it's better fit, yeah. So about these modules, what's interesting is that you can declare these modules are service modules or RPC modules. So what is a service modules? Service modules, you will define some settings for service modules. You can declare in the setting file, and you will have standard actions like start, pause, stop, things like that. And the service module will receive events, like application will start or data store will stop, things like that. So you can by default receive these messages and be able to initiate or pause some, for example, listen to HTTP requests or stop listening to them. And this way, it's a good way to implement other protocol supports in Wakanda, for example. And RPC modules, it's using the JSON RPC protocol. So you have also a JSON RPC client in the client framework. But of course, you could use it from Dojo, JSON RPC implementations, and so on. So it's quite simple. You make your module, you export the method you want to make available for the service. So any internal function not binded to the export object will remain private to the server-side execution. On the client, we will also work with components. So any person in the team can work on its own component, and a web component is a set of HTML file, JavaScript file, CSS file, and it has its own API. So it has its own sandbox sources coming from the server and so on. And it can communicate, it can expose some methods. So when a web page integrates a web component, it can use some methods provided by the component. And what's interesting is that you can make evolutions to the component and still provide the same API on compatible APIs. You can create custom widgets. So yes, Wakanda comes with a set of widgets. Some will say, oh, there is not as much widget as in this framework or this other one. Yeah, of course, it's a young project. But we had many implemented applications done using also widgets coming from XTJS or Kendo UI or other ones. And sometimes we had a discussion with some people making their full own widgets. They are only using quite the data provider and data sources from Wakanda. And even if you use the native Wakanda widget, you can still totally customize them to make them fit with the design provided by the designer on Photoshop and so on. We had a blog post about that. I don't remember, it's still online. So you can define some themes. You can have application.css applicable to all the pages, or you can define some custom CSS in each pages. Most of the time, a Wakanda application follows the direction of a single page application. And that's why web components are so much important. Still, it means that you can define a page specific for the desktop, a page specific for mobile, and you have a very specific setting for mobile with specific dedicated widgets for that. And even sometimes, like you do in a desktop application, you will open another window, and you can consider it as another page on a web application. So Studio extension, I talked about that. So native Studio extensions, there is a GSLint, a GS Beautifier. There is a Git extension, maybe other ones, I don't remember. So yeah, anyone can do some. About the Git extension. So yes, when working in a team, it's better to have a source control. So you can do some push, commit, and so on. So there is a native integration with GitHub itself. And you know what? The way you publish your application on the server is using Git, because there is an integrated Git server with a server. So what's interesting is that you can say, okay, I will push to the server, but I will push to a test server instead of the production server, and there will be only one guy who has the right to publish to the production server. So that's the kind of usage we have seen in the community. Oh, there is some smart people. So debugging, yeah, you did test-driven development, no? You should not need that. Okay, even with test-driven, I love debugging tools because you will really see the JavaScript working, all the states and so on. So I love that. So maybe that's why I participated to this tool. So I did this interface. It is the internal debugger in Wakanda Studio. which is communicating with the server with a crossfire from Firebug protocol. And I tried to take some of the best features from different debuggers, like Firebug, Web Inspector, and other ones you may not know. And maybe you should not know. Some example of what I liked is if you look at the stacks. From the stack, you can see the value of the parameter the values of this parameter when it was called. Okay, the method was called. And in Firebug, you have a nice representation, detailed representation of the values in the watchers. What you have not in the WebKit one. So, but still, Web Inspector is a good developer tool. So Web Inspector is embedded in the Wakanda server. So you have a specific address to communicate with the debugger. And it's using so the WebKit debugger protocol, which is some JSON RPC over WebSockets. And this way, the list of the context coding on the server is on the left there. You have the full Web Inspector. So you see, the stack is different. But yeah, still, it's a very good one, and there is always new features inside. I think I did it a bit quick. Already there? Okay, we will have time for question and maybe try something. Okay, deployment. And so on the server, you have a native project which is the server administration. The server administration is just a kind of Wakanda app. So you could even write your own server administration application yourself. And all you have to say is declare it in the setting as the administration project. So you can, if you nesting company providing some platform as a service, something like that, that's the way you will do it. Or even for many projects in the same company, internal company, you can do your own administration tool. But still, you already have them, one at least. So from which you can verify, repair database, make some backups, access to the browser. And you know there is a little button called browse. Here you can browse your data. There is a data browser. So when someone is designing the model of your database, it will directly be able to to manipulate the data to see it's what he expected. About deployment, so in the early stage, some people wrote articles about deploying Wakanda on Gandhi VPS. Some were using Mac Mini Vault because Wakanda is also running on a Mac, and Mac Mini Vault was very cheap. And we made some webinars deploying Wakanda on Azure and on Amazon. And the fact is that Amazon installed some of their offices just aside our own offices. And another fact is that while discussing with either Amazon and Azure, Amazon, for now at least, has been more proactive and more provided more professional feedbacks. And so we became a partner with them. So we could expect some, I can say that, Lyle? You agree with me? Some Wakanda Cloud offer coming out. So of course, Wakanda server, you can install it on your own network. You can have it running on an intranet or things like that. You can run it on kind of any VPS, dedicated server or VPS. And yes, when people ask it about the cloud, yes, from IaaS platform, so Amazon, Azure, you have it. This is experimental tool, it's an internal tool. I should have used it to publish a demo and make it run, but it's still early. And this is the kind of tool you will probably have with Wakanda Cloud to deploy, but integrated from your studio and so on. Okay, let's talk about the live. of the application. So we have seen that you have sandbox modules, which is important. So it means that if you need to do some refactorings, it doesn't mean you have to break your API. So you can do it, you can extend your API, and JavaScript is a good choice for that, because with JavaScript it's very easy to make some polymorph signatures for a same method. So okay, the first version of this method was expecting some strings, but no, if I see the first parameter is a function, I can provide a new functionality and make it as a new version of the API. So the same for web components. And about the data model, it is updatable. So if you say, okay, I had a string there, but now I say it's more performant to have something else, I can change it. I don't even have to restart the server. I just need to say, okay, just reload the model because I've made some changes. So if I have a set of changes to do, it will not do it without my action. And you can extend data classes. So for example, you started your project, you had an employee data class, and you say, okay, it's nice, everything in the employee. And now you see, okay, I have to manage some students, I have to manage some attendees. So, okay, I will start to have a person data class, and employee will become an extended data class of the person. So you can think about changing your model like that, and still have a consistent API over the employee, and have new features coming on the side. And yeah, you can open a remote catalog. So a model you design for an application can become part of the model of another application. So this way you let the APIs and the functionality you provided from start and provide another application which will be able to use the features from the first one and the data from the first one. So about Wakanda evolution itself, so Wakanda has a short release cycle. So it's kind of every 3 months you have a new version of Wakanda with new features. So sometimes people are saying, hey, but you said you were working on that feature. Yes, but we wanted to have a new release right now. So for a start, you lose 20 features, and in the next release you will have it. So sometimes it's a bit complicated because people are seeing everything we do. We have a dev channel, so people can see every feature committed every day on the dev channel. There is 2 builds a day, so I'm not sure the 2 builds are, yeah, maybe they are published, the 2 builds. You have the changelog, and you can see everything. So sometimes they are frustrated because they see things coming, but it's not in the release yet. Okay. But at least they know it's coming. So we have a roadmap page on the website, and it is updated very frequently. I think it's once a week, the roadmap, yes. So with the progression of each features. So we try to have as much transparency as possible. And yes, so it's open source, and for the moment there is the community edition and the enterprise edition is the same. It's the same project. It's just if you use a community edition, you're using something licensed under HGPL, Affero GPL, saying, okay, you have all that for free, so be a good guy too and provide your own source too. So that's the game. And if you're not doing a community project, there was a very affordable license. It's a bit changing right now. That's why I don't give the details. But in addition to the commercial license, there will also be a specific enterprise edition with features dedicated to the enterprise. For example, we don't want to promote, for example, SOAP in the community edition, in the open source edition, because the kind of evangelism we do about Wakanda, the open source project, is about good practices using REST and so on. But yeah, SOAP is mandatory in many enterprise, how do you say, networks and so on. So you have a huge legacy in enterprise with some Java components, some .NET ones. So we're working about giving bridges with such legacy systems. And also, even if Wakanda is a database by itself, because a lot of people wanted to get data from MySQL or for other things, we start to provide some bridge acting like an ORM for data coming from MySQL to let you manipulate them as the object. But of course, the performances will be quite different because they are not object databases. So we try to have a lot of transparency and update it as often as possible. That's time for questions, if you have some, of course. And just quickly, so we have a conference in San Francisco. It's the right date? Yeah, okay, it is. So it's a very great conference, and we should do one also in Europe like we did last year, but it should be probably in February of next year. So probably in Paris, but it's not fixed for now. So, and the last link, it's part of my action on W3C. It's a community group, so you don't have to be a member of W3C to participate. It's about trying to provide the same APIs on the server and on the client. For example, we are involved in a quite recent W3C working group, which is called the CSAPS working group. And the goal of this working group is to handle package installed web applications. So now you have the Chrome apps, you have the Firefox OS running really web apps. And in this situation, you can install the web application. So once the application is installed, you can give it more credentials to have access to more APIs. And an example of those APIs is the WoSocket API. So if you install this app, it could make some TCP socket connections or UDP socket connections. This way, it lets the possibility to create a mail app, for example, for Firefox OS or anything you can think about. And for us, we are not a browser vendor or an OS vendor, but because we need some standard API for sockets. Currently, we have the Node.js ones, but we're very involved in doing it the right way for the client to have it consistent with the server. Okay, so thank you. You have the link, and anyone would be very welcome to the community, of course. Thank you.